Your birthday is in 3 days, and someone at work remembers before you do. They ask what you're doing to celebrate. You smile, you say something small. Dinner, maybe? Nothing big? And inside there's a quiet relief that you didn't have to bring it up yourself. Later at home, you realize you haven't told anyone else. Not because you forgot. Because somewhere along the way, your birthday became just another Tuesday. And you learned to feel safer that way. This isn't about hating attention, it's about something older. Something that taught you, very carefully, that wanting takes up too much space. There's a name for what happens when celebration feels like exposure. It's called self-protective minimization, the quiet art of making yourself smaller so that disappointment can't find you. It's not apathy. It's not humility. It's a psychological strategy you developed when wanting something out loud felt too risky. This is what happens when a child learns that their needs are conditional, that enthusiasm might be met with silence, that hoping for something could become evidence of being too much. So you stopped hoping loudly. You learned to treat milestones like speed bumps, something to get over quickly without fuss. Not because you don't matter. Because mattering once felt dangerous. Most of this begins in childhood, in homes where love was present but unpredictable. Maybe birthdays were celebrated, but only if the adults were in the right mood. Maybe gifts came with conditions, or attention arrived tangled with criticism. Maybe you learned early that your joy was acceptable only when it didn't inconvenience anyone else. Or perhaps you grew up in a family where celebrations were loud for others, but quiet for you. Where siblings got parties, and you got a card. Where you learned wordlessly that some people are worth the effort and some people are expected to understand. There's also the cultural layer. Girls are often raised to be considerate, to not ask for too much, to read the room before they read their own hearts. We absorb the message that our needs should come with an apology attached. So we adapt. We become the easy one, the low-maintenance one, the one who never makes a fuss. And we carry that identity like a badge, proof that we won't be a burden. But underneath, there's a child who once circled a date on a calendar and hoped someone would remember without being told. Here's what happens in your brain when wanting feels unsafe. Your amygdala, the part of your brain that scans for danger, starts to associate desire with rejection. Over time, anticipation itself becomes a low-grade threat. Your body learns to brace before you even let yourself want something. Meanwhile, your prefrontal inverse cortex, the part responsible for planning and decision-making, adapts. It builds a bypass. If I don't expect anything, I can't be let down. It's efficient. It works. But your nervous system also remembers. It holds the shape of old disappointments. So even now, when someone offers to plan something for you, your body tenses before your mind can catch up. That's not overthinking. That's your system doing exactly what it was trained to do. Protect you from the vulnerability of being seen. This isn't pathology. This is survival intelligence. But what kept you safe at 8 can keep you lonely at 35. You might downplay your birthday to others before they can forget it themselves. You might feel a wave of guilt when someone suggests throwing you a party, like you're asking for too much, even when you didn't ask at all. You might plan your own celebration meticulously, but only if it's small enough that no one has to go out of their way. You might text a friend on their birthday with a paragraph of love, but when yours comes, you go silent, hoping they'll remember. Terrified, they won't. You might feel relief when your birthday passes without attention, and then feel hollow later, alone in bed, wondering why you engineered your own invisibility. You might treat your birthday like a work deadline, something to get through, not something to savor. You might buy yourself a gift and feel embarrassed explaining it, as if celebrating yourself is evidence of narcissism rather than self-respect. You might tell people, "I don't really do birthdays," and believe it's a preference, when really it's a defense. You might feel anxious when people sing to you, like their attention is a spotlight you didn't audition for. You might preemptively lower expectations, saying things like, "Don't worry about it," or "It's not a big deal," so that if nothing happens, you were right, and if something does, you're pleasantly surprised instead of quietly hurt. The cost of this pattern isn't obvious at first. You don't feel deprived, you feel efficient, unbothered, mature. But over time, the cost shows up in quieter ways. You become someone who takes care of everyone else's milestones but erases your own. You lose the muscle of receiving. You stop letting people love you out loud. You live in a world where you're always the giver, never the guest of honor. And the loneliest part? You convince yourself you prefer it this way. Here's the reframe. What saved you then constrains you now. You learned to minimize your needs because it kept you safe in an environment that couldn't hold them. That was adaptive, that was intelligent. But you're not in that environment anymore. And the part of you that's still guarding that old wound doesn't know it yet. You're not broken. You're not defective. You're just still operating from an old map. One that says wanting is dangerous and celebration is exposure. But there's another map. One where your birthday isn't a test of whether you matter. It's just a day when the people who love you get to show up. And you get to let them. 1. Witnessing, fixing. The first step isn't changing anything. It's seeing it clearly. You don't need to force yourself to love birthdays. You need to retire the story that you're difficult for wanting one. Try this. Write down one memory of a birthday that hurt. Not to analyze it, just to acknowledge it existed. Then write one sentence to that younger version of you. That wasn't fair. You deserve to feel special. Validation doesn't erase the past, but it stops you from carrying shame for something that was never yours to carry. 2. Body first. Your nervous system needs to learn that desire is safe before your mind will believe it. Micro-practice 1. Orienting 60 seconds. When you feel the impulse to downplay your needs, pause. Look around the room. Name 5 things you see. This brings you back into the present, where you're not 8 years old waiting for someone to remember. You're here, you're safe, you're allowed to want. Micro-practice 2. Long exhale, 30 seconds. Before you say it's fine or don't worry about it, take a breath in for 4 counts. Exhale for 6. This activates your parasympathetic nervous system, the part that signals safety. It gives you a beat of space between the old reflex and a new choice. Micro-practice 3. Hand over heart. 90 seconds. When guilt shows up after someone offers to celebrate you, place your hand on your chest. Feel your heartbeat. Say quietly, "I'm allowed to take up space. I'm allowed to be cared for." Your body will begin to believe what your words practice. 3. Boundary scripts. These aren't about being harsh, they're about being honest. To a friend who forgets, "Hey, my birthday's coming up, and I'd love to spend time with you. Are you free that weekend?" To family who historically made it complicated, "This year I'm keeping my birthday simple. I'd love to see you for coffee, just the 2 of us." At work, when someone asks what you're doing, "I'm taking the day off to rest. Nothing big, just what I need." To a partner who wants to plan something, "I'd love that. Can we make it low-key? Big surprises make me anxious, but I'd really like to feel celebrated." To yourself in the mirror, "I don't need to earn this. I just need to let it happen." To the guilt that shows up anyway, "You're trying to protect me. I appreciate that, but I'm safe now." 4. Language swap. Old script, "I don't want to be a burden." New truth, "Letting people care for me is a gift to both of us." Old script, "It's not a big deal." New truth, "It matters to me, even if it's small." Old script, "I can't ask for that." New truth, "I'm allowed to name what I want." Old script, "I feel selfish." New truth, "I'm practicing receiving, which I've been afraid of." 5. Inner child bridge. Close your eyes. Picture yourself at 7 or 9 or 12, whatever age feels tender. Say this to her. "You didn't deserve to feel forgotten. You were just trying to feel safe. You weren't too much. You were exactly enough. You get to rest now. I'll take it from here." This isn't therapy. This is integration. The part of you that learned to disappear needs to hear from the part of you that's strong enough to be visible. When you start to shift this pattern, life doesn't suddenly become loud or performative. It becomes honest. You stop canceling plans with yourself. You stop apologizing for wanting things. You let someone buy you dinner without 3 rounds of "Are you sure?" Peace stops feeling like silence you have to earn by staying small. It starts feeling like clarity, knowing you're allowed to take up space without justifying it. Love stops feeling like a performance you have to ace to deserve. It starts feeling like presence. People showing up, not because you perform perfectly, but because you exist. You learn that being celebrated doesn't mean you're self-absorbed. It means you're finally letting people love you in a language you've been too afraid to hear. And your birthday? It doesn't have to be a grand production. But it gets to be yours. Not a test. Not a burden. Just a day when you let the people who care about you show it, and you practice believing them. Your birthday is in 3 days. This time when someone asks what you're doing, you pause. You don't minimize. You don't deflect. You say something true. "I'm still figuring it out, but I'd love to spend some of it with you." And when you hang up, you notice something small. The relief isn't that you avoided attention. It's that you let someone in. You're not fixed. You're not healed in some final, permanent way. But you're learning that wanting doesn't make you weak. That being seen doesn't mean being unsafe. That the people who love you aren't waiting for you to earn it. They're just waiting for you to let them. Peace isn't earned by shrinking. It's kept by being whole. If you only remember one thing, you weren't difficult for wanting to be celebrated. You were adapting to an environment that couldn't hold you. But you're not in that environment anymore. And the part of you that's still guarding doesn't have to. What part of this felt like a door unlocking? Drop a comment below. I read every one, and if this resonated, share it with someone who might need to hear it. Sometimes permission comes from knowing we're not alone. Take care of yourself. You're worth the effort.